Let's talk about something that's not just bizarre, it's disturbing. Stephanie, a TikTok mom of 7, has been selling a story online. But behind that lens of curated content and emotional speeches is a mess that keeps getting worse by the day. And the center of that mess? Her boyfriend, Drew. The man who's not just jobless, but possibly one of the most enabled and glorified deadbeats we've seen in the internet drama in a long time. And somehow, Stephanie is still the one carrying everything on her back: content, chaos, and chores. This isn't just about parenting struggles, it's about manipulation, enabling, and delusion. And at the center of it all is a man who's been exposed over and over again, but keeps getting glorified by the very woman he's dragging down. So here's the tea. Stephanie is not just managing her own TikTok, she's running Drew's entire page too, from content planning to filming, editing, and uploading. And what kind of content is she posting over there? Videos of Drew playing chef, being the hands-on dad, and helping out around the house like he's some kind of super supportive partner. But here's the kicker. It's all smoke and mirrors. None of it's real. Stephanie is the director, the producer, the actor behind the curtain. She's filming these staged moments, sometimes even using clever camera angles or hiding her hands to make it seem like Drew is doing the work. She's doing double the labor, hers and his, while pretending it's a team effort. And for what? So Drew can look good on the internet, so he can keep costing while she does everything. This is a man who doesn't hold a job, doesn't pay bills, and barely lifts a finger to help. And yet somehow he's getting a platform, followers, and even praise because of a fake image Stephanie is curating for him. Meanwhile, Drew's sitting around playing games, watching the views roll in, and letting Stephanie break her back running not one, but 2 full-time content schedules. And that's the part that stings. The world is being fed a lie, and the person working the hardest is doing it all to protect the reputation of someone who refuses to carry his own weight. So again, we ask, what does Drew even do all day? Because existing and soaking up the credit, it seems like not much else. And Stephanie? She's stuck in this exhausting performance, desperately trying to convince the world and maybe us that the man she chose is actually worth all her effort. Let's rewind to the early days when Stephanie first told her followers that Drew was finally getting his own TikTok account. It was supposed to be his big moment, the chance to show the world that he actually contributed around the house. After months of criticism for not helping or working,
Answer a bunch of questions, but I am going to answer this one. Y'all are always asking me, what does Drew do? He does a lot, but I have one device to create content on, and that's my phone. And usually my phone is being used to do a lot of mom things as well. Get as many clips as I can of me doing my thing. Oftentimes I really don't get as many clips of Drew doing what he's doing around the place. I think going forward, he's going to start getting his perspective on the matter too. So prepare to see videos from Drew as well. For the life of me, I don't know why that's just going to steam a bunch of you when you literally could just do what makes you happy too. Why is that so hard? I wake up and choose miserable every day, and then you turn around and blame other people for it. What the fuck? I thought we were the creator of our own destiny, okay?
this was Drew's shot to silence the doubters and prove he wasn't just gaming all day. Stephanie hyped it up like it was going to be a new era of transparency. And for a moment, he opened the account and instantly gained traction, over 9,000 followers in a flash. But if anyone thought this would finally be the moment Drew showed up and stepped up, they were wrong. Because once again, it was Stephanie doing the heavy. How did people figure that out? One small detail that exposed a much bigger lie, a reflection. In what's now become one of the most famous videos on Drew's page, he was supposedly cooking jambalaya, chopping up sausage, stirring rice, looking every bit like the hands-on partner. But something was off. The video was unusually zoomed in, like someone didn't want to see too much. And then it happened, a brief blink, and you'll miss it reflection of pale skin in the blade of the knife. That tiny glimpse was enough to unravel the whole illusion.
Drew Jenkins from the Resilient Jenkins was just told on by a piece of sausage, and let me get into it. So they posted a new video to Drew's account because Drew from the Resilient Jenkins is trying to pave his own way, and I think he calls it his 9 to 5 now. That's what he's trying to do for work, for money, is to be a content creator. And so he posted a video of him helping his wife cook dinner, or he's the one cooking, and the reflection, as I'm showing, shows a lighter complexion and not Drew Jenkins' complexion. So with basic inferencing skills, we can deduce that it's Stephanie Jenkins behind his videos. She even changes, like, at first she's cutting it this way, and then she notices that you could see her reflection, so she changes an unnatural way to cut the sausage so that nobody can really see. That is like the tea that I need on Tuesday to just keep me going, because she really is trying to make it seem like he is doing so much work and he's not doing it, and that's proof.
Because Drew, as everyone knows by now, has a darker skin tone. The pale reflection? It was Stephanie. She was the one doing the cooking. Not only that, but the second her reflection was cold and people started pointing it out, the angle of the knife suddenly shifted. The hand holding it changed position in a way that was awkward and unnatural, like someone trying to avoid another reflection. It was an obvious scramble to hide the truth. The video wasn't candid, it wasn't authentic, it was a staged production, and Stephanie had once again played every role: cook, camera woman, and now cover-up artist. This wasn't Drew helping out. This was Stephanie doing the work while pretending someone else did it. And that, right there, says everything. Compare that to Drew's other videos, the ones where his hands are fully visible, chopping veggies and making it seem like he's doing all the cooking. You can clearly see him in sleeves rolled up, acting like he's pulling his weight. But when you revisit that jambalaya clip, suddenly it's all zoomed in. Tight frames and suspicious camera work. No hands, no face, just Stephanie playing pretend behind the scenes again. So why go through all that effort? Why fake it to this extreme? Because Stephanie is committed to a narrative. She wants the world to believe that Drew is a hands-on, supportive, helpful man. She needs that to be true, not just to silence the critique, but to justify her own choices. She's built a reality around Drew being a provider, a father figure, a partner. Admitting that he's none of those things would mean confronting the truth, that she's carrying a grown man who refuses to even carry his own weight. In many ways, she's not just convincing us, she's convincing herself. It's easier to stage a video than to admit that you've invested years into someone who would never plan to show up. It's easier to pretend he's cooking than to face the fact that you're raising 7 kids with a man who contributes nothing but excuses. But facts don't lie. Drew isn't working. He isn't supporting. He won't even film his own content, and yet Stephanie still calls him her king, still builds him up like he's worthy of praise. The truth? He's wearing a crown she made for him, out of her own exhaustion, out of her own denial, and out of a fantasy that keeps crumbling every time the camera catches a reflection.
She posted, he's playing video games. Like, sir, we understand you think you're too good to get a job, but you gotta help her take care of those trophies. Doesn't really matter what you guys think, but this man won the lottery. He got himself someone who cooks, cleans, takes care of the kids by herself. She writes hard for him because no matter how much shit we talk about him, she defends him. She's never heard of a condom, but hey, that's just a plus for him. He can implant as many semen demons in her and she doesn't care. And he doesn't have to take care of them, physically, mentally, emotionally, or financially.
And this isn't just about content, it's about character. And Drew's character, well, it speaks for itself. Let's not forget he has another child out there, a son, a little boy who, from all the evidence we've seen, has been abandoned by his father. Not only did Drew walk away from his responsibility, but he also refused to pay child support. That's not just negligence. That's a complete failure to show up as a parent. When it was time to appear in court to address the just show up and acknowledge his role as a father, Drew didn't go. He claimed he had a seizure. But even that excuse fell apart. Medical professionals reportedly doubted it even happened. The signs weren't there. The behavior didn't line up. The timeline was shady. But Stephanie, she jumped into his defense like always. Instead of holding Drew accountable, she went after the doctor. She accused them of being racist for questioning the legitimacy of his seizure.
The medical system is failing my man. I'm seeing firsthand how African Americans get treated in the medical system. And if you want to deny that, that's probably because it doesn't affect you. Okay? Or it doesn't affect someone close enough to you that you know what I'm talking about. It just seems like we know. That's just it. I haven't shared it because I just know how people are. Y'all gonna be like, oh, well, she can say, well, this test came back normal and this came back normal, and well, obviously there's nothing wrong with him and he's just playing games. Nah, man, do you know how many times an African American has their medical concerns dismissed simply because that's just how the doctors want to play? I don't care if you watch me. I'll watch it back. And this morning, when my man was interacting with the paramedics, I just often ask myself, like, would you be asking these questions if it was another? Would you be asking these questions in a different scenario? Because why are you instantly assuming that this has to do with some kind of substance abuse? Why are you instantly assuming that he's faking it? And why are you calling him old when he's 35? Not an old man yet.
Let that sink in. She called out trained medical professionals for being prejudiced rather than confronting the fact that Drew simply ditched court. It didn't matter that his own child was depending on him. It didn't matter that this wasn't the first red flag. It was part of a pattern. Stephanie had his back, and not because he deserved it, but because that's just what she does. Again and again, Stephanie defends the indefensible. And in doing so, she tells the world that Drew's image matters more than his impact, more than his son, more than reality. Let's talk about the living conditions because they say a lot more than just where someone lays their head. Before Drew came along, Stephanie and her kids were staying at her mother's house. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. There was food, there was shelter, there was family support, but then came Drew, promising her the dream. A 2-bedroom apartment, a space for her kids, and a fresh start as a family. Stephanie believed him. Why? Maybe because she wanted to, maybe because she needed something to believe in. But that promise? It was nothing more than hot air. Drew never even informed his landlord that Stephanie and her children would be moving in. No lease, no plan, just vibes. And what was supposed to be a fresh start turned into 3 long years of squeezing a big family into a tiny 1-bedroom. Kids were sleeping in the kitchen, others on the floor. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was unsafe. Fast forward to now, and the situation has only worsened. They are homeless, moving from one motel to another like it's normal, and not just for a night or two. This has become their way of life. A rotating door of cramped, 1-room setups with 5 children in tow. And somehow, this is the path Stephanie chose. Because when her own mother stepped in and offered help, Stephanie said no. But here's the twist. Her mom's only condition was that Drew couldn't come, and instead of considering the well-being of her kids, Stephanie chose Drew. She called her mom toxic, burned the bridge, and walked straight into instability for the sake of a man who has done absolutely nothing to prove his while sacrificing everything for.
What would the plan be if you guys don't find housing? Okay, I don't know of another plan besides getting a hotel and getting a storage unit, because even the fact that I have 4 siblings who have housing out here and a mother, none of them have offered for us to stay with them until we figure out some kind of situation. Nor would I even want to stay with any of them.
That's not just a mistake, that's a pattern, a heartbreaking one. Stephanie recently shared what she excitedly called an upgrade. She posted a video celebrating their move into a slightly bigger motel room. Still just 1 room, still temporary, but this time with more beds and maybe a bit more walking space. She showcased it with pride, hyping it up like they had just signed a lease on a dream apartment. The tone was cheerful, as if this move marked a major milestone, but for many viewers, it was a red flag in disguise. The concern wasn't that she found joy in a better situation. It was that she was trying to make a motel feel like a permanent solution. Critics were quick to point out that she and Drew seemed a little too comfortable with motel living. Instead of using their income to secure an apartment or at least a long-term housing plan, they were putting more energy and money into finding motels and slightly better aesthetics. The bigger beds, the brighter light. It all looked like a distraction from the deeper issue. There was still no stability. And it wasn't just about the room.
As you guys can see, they moved rooms. That's great. All right. But let's see what we're doing to get out of the situation. Are you applying for jobs? Is Drew applying for jobs? What are you guys doing other than TikTok? Because this is not going to be the be-all only thing that works, girl. Okay? Deadass. Then she posts another video stating that the police have been there 3 separate times this week to do welfare checks. What do you expect, girl? You're putting everything out there. Anyway, hit that repost, follow, comment, do all the things. I'll keep y'all updated because this shit just seems to never get better. I would love nothing more than for her to get her shit together and put her children first, and I'd never talk about this shit again. Girl, come on, you can do it.
Around the same time, Stephanie and Drew showed off an expensive new car, a flashy silk vehicle that didn't even have enough seats to transport all 7 kids safely at once. People couldn't wrap their heads around it. How were they justifying a car that didn't meet their basic family needs when their children still didn't have a home? When people questioned these choices, when viewers asked why money wasn't being prioritized towards housing, Stephanie didn't take it well. She clapped back in videos saying it was nobody's business how they choose to live or spend. But here's the thing, the moment you invite the world into your life, post every detail online, ask for donations, and build an audience of your family's struggles, it becomes a conversation. And if children are involved, people will always speak up. You don't get to monetize your family's hardships and then shut down questions about your decisions. Transparency isn't a one-way street. And when you're raising kids in a motel, driving around in a luxury vehicle and still rely on public support, people are going to ask why. And they should. Stephanie went on to say that she and Drew have big dreams. A cozy 3-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms, a spacious backyard for the kids to run in around, and maybe even a laundry room where she could finally wash clothes in peace without relying on shared machines or laundromats. She painted a picture of stability and comfort, a future where her children could grow up with space, safety, and normalcy. But here's the problem. None of it seems grounded in reality. Neither she nor Drew has a steady job. There is no consistent income, no structured savings plan, just content creation, a few viral videos, and a hope that it will somehow lead them to a dream home. People began to question whether they were genuinely working toward this goal or simply waiting for a government program to hand it to them. There was speculation they might already be on the path to getting Section 8 housing or working with a caseworker, and the whole "we're planning and saving" talk was just a performance to later say, "See, we did it." Whether or not that's true, one thing is obvious. Stephanie and Drew are leaning heavily on public sympathy. They talk about goals, but don't show steps. They talk about planning, but their actions reflect something closer to passivity and dependence. The difference between ambition and wishful thinking is in the work, and that's where people feel the disconnect. Dreams are beautiful, but without a strategy, they're just words. And so far, Stephanie and Drew's blueprint for the future seems written entirely on chalk. Stephanie keeps repeating the same line: "We know what's right for our family." It's hard to go defense whenever her decisions are questioned. But if you look at the timeline, her actions consistently tell a different story. Not one rooted in confidence or planning, but one in chaos and backpedaling. She didn't move into a larger motel because she wanted to improve her kids' quality life. She moved because the internet called her out. People pointed out how inappropriate it was for so many children to be squeezed into a room without enough beds. Only then did she make a change, and even that was more of a band-aid than a solution. The same thing happened with her so-called housing plans. Stephanie never discussed those goals until people started criticizing her for spending irresponsibly, dropping money on a car that couldn't seat all her kids, or shopping for things that didn't align with their reality. Suddenly, she had a housing vision. But like most of her changes, it felt performative, crafted for the audience rather than based on a real proactive strategy. Every step forward has been a response to public pressure. Never once has Stephanie shown signs of making intentional, thoughtful choices based on what her children truly need. It's not direction, it's damage control. And that's where the concern grows. Because right as people started questioning her judgment, something even darker began to surface. In one video, while Stephanie was folding clothes on camera, viewers noticed something strange sticking out of her pocket. It was a weird, tubular shape that seemed out of place. Within moments, the comment section lit up. People were zooming in, analyzing the footage, and speculating about what it could be. The most unsettling responses came from former individuals who had been through the same battle Stephanie had once publicly faced. Many of them immediately identified the object as a substance pipe.
Y'all, okay, so apparently Stephanie Jenkins has been exposed for using METH. Now, at first it was all speculation, but in her latest video, people saw some hard evidence. So let's go ahead and analyze. So this is her last video, and as you can see, there seems to be something in her pocket that has a very circular shape and then a little pipe. And if you look, this image is pretty hard to come by. Like, this could only really be a few things. And one of those things is a pipe to use and smoke hard substances. And there you can see Stephanie like folding the laundry. So I went ahead and did a little bit.
It wasn't just the shape or how she tried to subtly hide it. It was her behavior throughout the video. This raised even more concern. Stephanie's speech was slightly slurred. Her eyes looked distant and unfocused. Her energy shifted erratically, one moment laughing, the next lashing out. The kind of swing people familiar with addiction recognized all too well. These weren't just quirks or off days. To people who had been there, the signs were impossible to ignore. The speculation started snowballing. Could Stephanie have relapsed? After all, she had previously opened up about her struggle with substance use and even went to rehab in the past. That history made this potential slip even more heartbreaking. And this isn't just about Stephanie. It's about the 7 children living in unstable motel rooms with a mom who may be spiraling again. It's about whether they are safe, whether they are being fed, whether they are being cared for by someone who's fully present. Because if Stephanie is using again, the consequences aren't just personal, they are generational. We can't say for sure if the pipe was real or if the relapse is happening. But the behavior, the clues, and the lack of transparency, it paints a deeply troubling picture. And whether it's true or not, the fact that so many people believed it instantly says a lot about how far gone things seem for the outside. At this point, Drew looks like a glorified sperm donor who contributes nothing but chaos. And Stephanie, she's enabling it all, under the illusion of loyalty, love, and TikTok fame. They've turned their life into a reality show where the only thing real is the from motel life to child support evasion, fake content to possible drug use. There is a lot going on, and none of it looks like what's right for the kids. So let me ask you, is Joe just a professional freeloader? Is Stephanie addicted to toxic relationships? Are the kids safe in this setup? Drop your thoughts below, like and subscribe for updates, because you already know this story, it's far from over.